Hi, everybody, and welcome to the 23rd SF Doc Fest. We're so excited to have the wonderful filmmakers join us from our Justice and LGBTQIA plus shorts package here. Welcome, everybody. I'm Sarah Marie Flores. I curate the shorts here at Doc Fest. I'm so excited to present this package for everybody. To kick things off, I would love to just introduce everybody. If you could, please let us know your name, what film you're here with, what your role was, and what was the genesis of this project for you. And we're going to start off with Sean. Hi, Sean.
Hi, Sarah. I'm Sean Keane. My pronouns are they, them. I'm the director and co-producer of Sean Keane, of It's on Fire, which is a documentary that I started making during lockdown, and brought on my co-producer, Melanie Oram, who helped me with this road trip that we went on with a group of trans and non-binary people to the oldest trans conference in the world called Fantasia Fair. Melanie, do you want to introduce
Awesome. Yes. Hi, Melanie. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Melanie Orman. I'm, like Sean said, the co-producer of It's on Fire. For me, the genesis of the project was Sean asking me to help them with this project right before the road trip. We've shot a lot since then, but this is sort of the beginning of the beginning for me.
It's beautiful. Thank you both so much for joining. Hi, Erica. Welcome.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you. My name is Erica Jordan Hollis O'Neill. I'm the director of In the Interval and the editor and one of the subjects. The genesis of the film began in my first year of my MFA program, which I began also in lockdown, which then takes kind of the centerpiece or the beginning of the film in the wake of the George Floyd protests and me kind of grappling with that in relationship to violence and antagonism towards Black trans femmes.
It's beautiful. Thank you so much, Erica, for joining us. Hi, Valentina and Sarah. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. My name is Valentina.
I'm Sarah. Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you all. I am the director of Effie's Big Gay Brunch, and Sarah's the producer. And we actually started this project through one of our classes in grad school. We're both social workers and therapists. And we kind of started this project thinking we were going to make a movie, a documentary about sex workers, and it got very derailed, and we found this very interesting, beautiful community through wrestling. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, my genesis is definitely similar. We started this through school and just had this kind of turn a corner in a really cool way. And Valentina's been such a creative influence on this project, and it's been so amazing. So I just am really grateful to be here and get to share this with you all.
thank you guys.
Awesome. Thank you. Hi, Kame. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you, Sarah. My name is Kami Abrahamian. I'm the director and producer and editor of Symptom. And the genesis of the film was that I had a friend who originally made a feature with a bunch of different characters in it, and the two characters who made up the band Symptom, and Amasia is here. Amasia is one of two members of the band. I really felt quite drawn to their story, and we became friends. And I really wanted to bring them to Canada to do a show, so I thought, why not expand on that story and turn it into a short doc. So that was kind of the genesis of Symptom. And Amasia, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, Amasia, I'll switch it up for you because like the genesis is you're living your life. Can you talk a little bit about what it was like having your journey documented and being involved like from a filmmaking perspective?
I think it was a very I can't like describe the experience of being documented, because it at that point it was also something that was constant, because in the feature one, where we were also involved as one of the characters, we were being filmed for like several years, like almost 2 years. So but you know, working with Kami was different because there was this kind of trust, and there was this kind of space where Kami was able to you know, explore our reality, and we also felt comfortable doing that. So yeah, I think that it is a very beautiful piece of like our experience and our presence in different locations as symptoms. So yeah, thank you.
That's awesome. Thanks so much. Sean, I would love to jump back over to you. I would really love to talk about what your process was for bringing community together through your filmmaking. Like, how did you find your subjects and kind of bring everyone together to go on that journey?
Thanks for asking. So Melanie was really central in this process. I had the idea of bringing together people of different generations within the trans community, because I had found that a lot of my friends who were older were having conversations with some of the younger people in the trans community, and there were sort of different experiences and ways of talking about things. And certainly my experience as someone who was non-binary in the 1990s, before I had words for it, I was like gender fuck, basically. And so when we started to go on the road trip, I knew that we wanted people of different generations. And I had a friend who's in her 60s, who's from the South, who's trans and Black. And so actually, Melanie, I think you were the one. Did you suggest that we bring Deborah? I can't remember how that went.
I think we wanted, I think for you, the idea was that you wanted something that traversed the generations. And I think for me, what I wanted was a group of people who had different, that were multicultural and that reflected different experiences, different lived experiences in whatever stage of life they were in. And so I knew that you knew Deborah, and we talked about it, and I can't remember who suggested Deborah, but that was my focus in trying to get this group of people together. And then we found chrysanthemum, which was, you know, an awesome thing, but I'll let you talk more.
So Chrysanthemum Tran is a poet and a performance artist, and she calls herself a public historian. So she brought a lot to the project. This project is part of a feature documentary where she actually shares quite a bit about so she's quite young, but she actually has a very historical perspective on things. And then Deborah is a pastor who's Baptist, who brings her experience as someone who, like, we don't, in my experience, talk that much about people from the faith community who are also in the LGBT community. So that was, since Melanie is also someone who shared that experience with Deborah, it was really meaningful for us to bring that into the documentary.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Melanie, I would love to jump over to you and just kind of talk about your way into the film, and kind of the ways, I mean, you know, as a producer, I think a lot about how important producers are because, you know, but it's true, right? Like everybody needs a ride or die partner to help make actualization of dreams. Can you talk about how you use your superpowers to step in and assist in that way?
Wow, superpowers. I feel flattered. I think that my involvement in the project grew out of an organic friendship that I had with Sean. In our other lives, we teach at a community college, and we were office mates before the pandemic. And so we would often get into interesting conversations, not just about what it's like to be part of the trans community, but what it's like to be an African-American woman, politics, the world. And so I think out of that friendship, and we don't always agree, which I think is a good thing. I think part of your job as a producer is to absolutely support your director in creating whatever vision they have, but it's also to ask the important questions, not to be a dream killer, but just to make sure that as we're reaching for our dreams, we're also grounded in the realities and the grind of production, hiring people, getting people to different places, securing things and shooting about ideas. I mean, I've really enjoyed working on this project. It's been super collaborative. You know, Sean clearly has a vision for where they want to go, but we talk about everything and it's changed so much. And I think that's part of the job of being a producer too, is being flexible. Like, the film that we started with in the beginning is not the film that we're making now. I mean, there's definitely elements of that film, but it's not just this is what we said we were going to do and we're going to do it. I think it's also being available, you know, like I didn't actually go with Sean on the road trip, but I helped them plan logistics. And when things would come up on the road, they would call me and we would talk, and sometimes we would pray for good outcomes. And so I think that's the job. You want to be available for your director. You want to ask the right questions that are going to help them sharpen their vision, and that's basically what I've been trying to do these past 2 years.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. Erica, I have, I guess it's two separate questions, but I'll ask them together and I'll refresh if you need. What really strikes me about your film is not only like the personal angle that you explore through your filmmaking. So I would hope that you could talk a little bit about like what that felt like to capture this personal perspective, but also the form of your film is so beautiful and bespoke. So can you talk about your approach visually to how you manifested your story?
Yes, thank you for that question, and I'll try to touch on all of it. So nudge me if there's parts that I missed. But I think one of the things I didn't mention in the Genesis portion of Q&A is that I was coming off the heels of having seen at the beginning of my MFA program, Jatavia Gary's Jivani document, if people are familiar. And that film was really impactful for me. It talks about the bodily autonomy of Black women broadly, but one of the critiques she actually levies against herself in a Q&A that she did in conversation with Frank Wilderson was that she didn't have the opportunity, because it has women on the street interviews, to sort of incorporate the experience of Black trans women and femmes into it. And so that was something that lingered for me. And I was interested mostly in how she disrupted form in a lot of ways. And that informed the ways in which I was also interested in wanting to talk about a lot of things at once, right? And so, like I said, I began the story by grappling with what grief felt like as a Black trans femme in the wake of the protests against Derek Chauvin and others in relationship to George Floyd's murder. And thinking about how the conversation and discourse had been solely, and for a lot of years, been oriented around the vulnerability that Black cis men experience in the face of police, and me wanting to think about that in relationship to the different kinds of vulnerabilities that Black trans women and femmes experience on a day-to-day basis. And so I was interested in making those conversations meet each other in ways that I didn't feel like were happening outside of, you know, sort of conversations within community, but not in the broader landscape. And I knew by doing that, by sort of having a conversation cross-generationally about Black masculinity and Black trans femininity, I also had to contend with a lot of things within myself and my own familial background. And so what began, as other people have sort of discussed in their own ways, about you know, wanting to just talk about the political landscape, then became a personal narrative. And at the same time, I was also digitizing a lot of over 19 hours of footage of my late father's footage from the early 90s of my childhood and of his own kind of becoming, right, in the early 90s. And I was thinking about that footage in conversation with my own. So it became a kind of collaborative project as well. And so then that was a way for me to both integrate my personal narrative, but make that a part of a larger fabric of a kind of collective biography. Yeah, I think that's generally how I approached it, that it was kind of a stream of consciousness as well, that it was like one thing kind of led to another and fed into each other. I didn't do any like logging or charting of this narrative throughout the whole process, which I don't know if I'll ever do again, because it was kind of maddening. But yeah, it was, my approach to it was, yeah, stream of consciousness, very driven by mood. Like a cut became a kind of way of film, became a way of me sort of intervening into different conversations and meeting them in moments where I felt like something was lacking and vice versa. So
That's awesome. Thank you so much. And very beautifully rendered. And such a touching personal story to go on the journey with. So thank you for sharing it.
thank you.
Valentina and Sarah, I'm gonna separate you. So pretend like you're not in the same room. There we go. Valentina, I would love to start off with you. The way that you approach the story within Effie is like, right, like this wrestling and queerness is a revolutionary act. Can you talk a little bit more about like what your ideas were behind kind of illustrating that point?
Yeah, absolutely. So the kind of the core of what I really wanted to get at and talk about was the importance of having other people surrounding you and supporting you when you are in a marginalized space or struggling through something, and how through the support of other people you can create freedom to express yourself, right? And that can look like really being revolutionary in this space and having this freedom to do that, and to simultaneously kind of ignite that artistic freedom. Because what I found so interesting when talking to everyone was the artistry that went with wrestling and the physical aspects of it. So there was like physical strength, emotional strength, and also this artistic strength all combined into one space. And it was made possible through the interaction with each other, right? And supporting each other and being present for each other and creating a space where you could just be who you were. And at least in my own journey throughout life, having supportive people has made or I can't, my brain either made or broke me. Either having people there being like, I got your back, you can be you, or having people not do that has really shaped who I am. And the importance of community is just extremely important in our capitalist society, in post-COVID world, where we were so isolated. So I really wanted to access the ideas of strength that comes in community, strength that comes in allowing others the freedom to be themselves, and what that creates internally and externally. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, totally. Thank
Great.
you so much. And then Sarah, like to come back to this role of like mobilization, right? Like bringing together these communities and supporting the storytelling while also making sure that folks are safe and feel comfortable sharing themselves on screen. Can you talk about kind of what your approach was to bringing folks together and orchestrating this all?
Yeah, I love this question, Sarah, because this was a total last minute thing. We actually were at the back gate where all the wrestlers were hanging out, drinking, doing their talking, all the different things that they do when they're socializing. And we were just like, hey, you want to do an interview? Like, you feel comfortable telling your story? Like, what does this look like for you? And all of them were so excited. They were like, I don't feel like I've ever had the opportunity to really share what this means for me and why I chose this costume design and how this community has brought me together and brought me to invest and embrace my queerness even further. And I think that was something, I even get emotional talking about it. Like, it's such a beautiful thing to see people so excited to share their community with others and feel safe in that, right? And I was expecting a lot of people to be like, no, that's not for me, or I don't feel comfortable. There's people from all over the world, from Minnesota, the East Coast, I think even people from Canada, that had traveled all to Los Angeles here to be at this event and to share it with each other. And I can't describe the feeling of community and safeness that I felt there, let alone that they all were experiencing too. So their openness and willingness to share with us, I think, was such a gift. And the fact that we got it on camera, we had the boom there, we had all of everything that was kind of unexpected to be there. in that space. I think that's what documentary filmmaking is all about. And I just really want to echo what Melanie said as a producer. I think I couldn't have put it better. A lot of flexibility, a lot of on the fly, a lot of trying to make the dreams work and also being realistic at the same time. So you know, shout out to you as well, Melanie, for all your hard work in the producing community. And yeah, I think it's just an amazing thing to be a part of this and to have community in this and then get to share all these other kind of micro communities.
It's lovely. Thank you so much. Camille, I would love to talk a little bit more about, I think a phrase that was said earlier was, right, the personal is the political, about your imperative for telling the story and your approach, not only visually, but in terms of the substance of how you're organizing Symptom. Can you kind of extrapolate a little bit about your journey as to why it was important to tell this story and how you approached telling it in such a very haunting and beautiful way?
Ooh, haunting. Yeah, I think for me, this story, I felt that it was personal to me, or I felt connected to it because I'm also Armenian. I live in the diaspora. So you know, I think one thing I will say is that in the Armenian diaspora, we have this like this imagination, or this idea of what it is like to be in Armenia and to live in Armenia. And I think like often we're really wrong about that, honestly. And I think we should make space for folks to tell like their own story. And really my approach was that when I approached Amasya and Sona, I was like, I just kind of want to like put the footage together. I wanted the story to be something that what felt really true and honest and authentic to them. And that's why, you know, like the trust was really important for me. Also, as someone who is young and queer and feminist and loud and all of these things, that pushed me to the margins of my own Armenian community in the diaspora, like, and in Armenia, you know, and so it's all of the things combined, you know, drew me to yeah, really like want to be friends with Sona and Amasya. Honestly, I made this film just so I could be friends with them, if I'm being honest. Just because I wasn't around people like me as a younger person. So to meet folks who were just so unapologetically political in their creative life and generation, like the what they were generating in the world and the spaces they were generating through their music, it really moved me in a really deep way, in a way that I wish I had that type of community growing up. So that was, I don't know if that answered your question, but
Yeah, you know, it comes, there's like a personal connection that you can see through the filmmaking that I think really elevates the film. And it's really gorgeous. So thank you so much. Marcia, hi. I would love to talk to you about kind of what this has brought about in your journey, right? Like, what is it like seeing yourself portrayed in a documentary, and kind of where are you and Sona at today?
It's such a hard question because, you know, after COVID and after the war that we had in Armenia, we have began to reflect on reality in a different way now. So like time and everything feels very different. And when Kami was doing the film, like all of those stuff were really fresh, and immediately we also had an opportunity to express ourselves and tell our stories in another reality. We went to Montreal, where they were showing the feature film, and I don't know, maybe because the work that we do is very intuitive, it is not really easy for me to put into words or to like make a formulation. But Sona and I, we still create, especially individually now. Sona is more into filmmaking and I do visual arts, and I also am very active in the feminist scene and advocacy at the moment. But we still, you know, Symptom is our safe space. And I think in the film, you can also feel that we have created this virtual safe space, because we started Symptom when we were like we were in high school. So when we really needed that space to express ourselves and, you know, tell about these questions and issues that we were finding in our communities. So yeah, and we still continue to keep the activity, but at the moment it has become a bit challenging to have live performances, especially in Armenia, because of as I said, the shift of reality. We're still trying to find ourselves as artists, as citizens, as feminist artists, and yeah, it's still like a bit out of balance. But I don't know if I answered or.
That's
Thank you.
Beautifully said. I think we're all definitely in a state of a lack of equilibrium across the globe, definitely here in the States. Like Erica, being a Black woman, being trans, like all of the things we can do to uplift folks that are kind of the most marginalized in our society. I think it's so important that we take that responsibility to uplift and continue to develop senses of community and togetherness, especially when things feel like they're at the worst and our backs are the most against the wall. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today and for sharing our stories. And thank you to our audience at home for checking these out. That's all the time we have today, but I appreciate you all being here. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.